Here's the big fish, rockfish. Rockfish capital of the world. Right, here it is, striped bass, common name, rockfish. State record is 64 pounds. World record is 81 pounds. The myth of Rocky the giant rockfish. The story is that a fisherman was fishing and he snagged this monster-sized fish and fought with him for several hours. When he finally pulled him in, he got his net out, the line snapped, and he got away. The fish was as long as the boat. So, he was also the town drunk, Jonathan Jackson. So he went and had himself a drink at the bar, as he told his fish tale. And as he's drinking, he all of a sudden was seized and fell over backwards, dead of a heart attack. It's a big mouth on a big fish. Looking at its present condition, it's kind of hard to believe that at one time this was the largest city in North Carolina. It's fallen on hard times. Well, let's check out the downtown Weldon flea market. And they have a grand ballroom. Uh-oh, what happened to his girlfriend, bride, whatever? It was like maybe both of them had too much to drink. Now, this is something you don't see very often anymore. Mirror on the wall. Two of them anyhow. Oh, beside the grand ballroom they have the boxing club. Wow. Roanoke Rapacieta Jason's Boxing Club. Wow. And members only for this club, and don't bring any weapons. This is the one I was at earlier. Check out the narrow end of this block of buildings. This is Main Street, Weldon. And look at that rockfish adorning the Weldon Town Hall entrance. This is one of my favorite buildings. It's a tiny little bank. Looks like it's made out of sandstone, but look at the carving. It's a work of art. There's the historical marker. Longest railroad in the world when completed in 1840. And look at these ghosts and goblins here. Decorated nicely. And look at the bear going for the honey. One man's trash is another man's treasure. Here's the railroad, the elevated railroad, running down to the depot. Weldon is a historical place. This is a depot, and what's unique about it is it has a two-level railroad track running by it. Also, it was one of the first and one of the most important railroads for the Confederacy. Looks like the old railroad freight building is now repurposed to a TV station. Retired cabooses always find them a home. This one's at the library. The old depot is now the library. the Raleigh and Gaston Railroad. It was completed in 1840, and it was 61 miles long. It became a railroad hub, and it was dubbed the railroad capital of the world. Well, that was a very brief period. Didn't last very long. Now, this is the freight depot building. It's the oldest railroad building in North Carolina. 1840. It's now a radio and TV station. Weldon was, because it was a hub, it was strategically important to the Confederacy. It was their supply line. It connected to Richmond, and so it was very strategic. And there are lots of old forts around on the Roanoke River and around the railroad. It was the lifeline of the Confederacy, so it was called. Look at these trees. I don't know what they are. This was the elevated Atlantic coastline trestle. It's called the prairie style of architecture. And there's the elevated, the railroad that was elevated above the other one for efficiency. Notice the granite headers on the windows, doors. Boy, can you imagine the tremendous noise of a train going over this? I guess the track is still active, I'm not sure. Yes, it is active. Here comes the Amtrak. That's the Amtrak. Weldon bills itself as the Rockfish capital of the world. And that's a pretty strong claim. Library's closed. Weldon's railroads, a convergence of commerce. First there was a canal. It was called the Roanoke Navigation Canal. Shallow draft bateaus coming downstream transferred their goods to larger commercial vessels, headed east to the Albemarle Sound and then north through the Dismal Swamp Canal to the seaport of Norfolk, Virginia. This seemingly efficient and cost-effective trade route, however, was soon developed a competitor, the railroad. The railroads came along and put the canal out of business. In 1840, the Wilmington and Weldon Railroad began operations, connecting the bustling wharfs at Weldon to the state's only deep water port. At the time, the Wilmington and Weldon Railroad was the longest in the world, running 161.5 continuous miles. Wow. Well, here we go. Wilmington. And here's Weldon right here. And then there was the Raleigh and Gaston Railroad, connected to the Petersburg Railroad. And then there was the Seaboard and Roanoke Railroad going to Norfolk. Eventually, 4 major railroads converged at Weldon, running east-west, where the Seaboard and Roanoke and the Raleigh and Gaston railroads, which later merged into the Seaboard Airline. And a lot of stock buyers used to buy Seaboard Airline thinking that it was an airline when it was actually a train. Running north and south were the Petersburg and Roanoke and the Wilmington and Weldon railroads, which later became the Atlantic Coastline Railroad. By the early 1900s, Weldon was a vibrant rail hub with train sheds, freight buildings, passenger depots, hotels, and switching yards. The only drawback was that the railroad forced the canal and riverboat out of business. It was simply safer, efficient, and cost-effective by train. Look, there's yet another railroad. I guess this is the Raleigh and Weldon. So from this vantage point, look, they got a basketball goal right on the street there. This vantage point in the middle of the street, you can see 3 railroads. You know, one of the nice things about this little town, you don't see any graffiti on the buildings. Well, this is a mill, the Riverside Mill. It would be the old mill, the original mill. This is an antique goat with a saddle and a little red wagon. This even has a bar. It was a cotton mill. And they've got an unbelievable amount of things in here. They even have a basement in here. It's called Skid Row Clearance. Oh, they're getting ready for Christmas too.